This is a Think Live Be production. Hello.
Hello. It's been a while.
It's been a while.
It's been a while since we hosted the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
We've been busy.
You want to tell people why?
I'm sorry, everyone. I feel really bad.
Time management.
I know. Well, it's not. Well, is it time management or is it? Yeah, that's what it is. Okay. You know what? That is actually the stem of all of your problems and mine. Not you specifically. I mean, like our listeners.
Say, okay.
You don't actually have a time management problem, but I bet for me and all of our listeners,
it drives me crazy.
The biggest issue that we all have is time management. 100%.
Yeah.
And we bought a property in North Carolina.
Yeah.
In Black Mountain, which is this charming little town just east of Asheville. And we bought it to basically for us to have a place to stay, but
an investment.
An investment to do short-term rental, which we've never done before.
Right. So it's a learning curve. We've done regular rental.
Yeah.
But not short-term. And so we've been trying to...
Well, first we had to go up and get it furnished. And
well, yeah, we've done a show since then.
Have we?
Yes.
Oh my gosh, I don't know what date it is. Are you sure?
Mm-hmm.
I actually don't know if that's true.
I'm pretty sure it's
I think
true.
we did an episode after we closed.
No.
But then we went up and furnished everything. Okay, well, we don't know.
But
it's all a blur.
What I was getting at is because of that learning curve, when you rent a normal property, you're just going to have somebody who leases it for a year or more. Once they're leased, they're done, right? It's like you got your first month's rent and you've got all the paperwork signed and you're finished. You give them the keys. But with this, there's people there for 3 days and then they're gone. And then 2 days later, somebody new shows up and they're there for 4 days and then they're gone. And then we had to figure out how to schedule the cleaners find the cleaners, schedule the cleaners for every single one of those things, and then because we're trying to save time and put systems in place, because you listen to the show and you know that that's what we do, doing that with Airbnb, getting our templates and our systems set so that we don't have to spend a lot of time now, so we can spend a little bit of time later.
What we're doing is leveraging the technology platform.
Yeah.
And so we're trying to come up with canned responses and templates for everything and setting them up so that the system automated, does it for us.
Yeah, so everything is as automated as it can be so that each guest has the exact same experience as the previous guest before them.
Yes.
Right? So that's that. Not knowing how to do that or exactly what the best way is, has that learning curve of that has been a process.
Can I just say,
really kind of taken up my every single day for me, really almost all day. And then, the excitement too of, oh, we got our first booking.
It's like running into
oh no,
the room.
We got a second booking. Oh, we got our third booking. Right? So, and then the excitement of that and all of those things really, it's a way it took up a lot of time for the last couple weeks.
And I will just give you guys a little tip if you're buying a short-term rental property that I think the biggest thing that I wish if we could go back and do differently is that we didn't adjust the pricing.
Right.
Like I said,
because it's a seasonal place.
We set it up and I was just excited to share it. And then we were giving away a discount to the first 3 guests, but I didn't block out like the busiest time of year. So those 3 people who booked got really good deals for like high peak colors in Western North Carolina.
Yeah.
So good for them. And we screwed ourselves.
And you live and you learn.
Yeah. But that's sort of, that's like any kind of business. Is you start something and then you're like, well, that didn't work, or I need to do this better. And that's what this podcast is all about.
Yeah. So we're
Seeking the Best.
Yeah. We're taking those things that we've learned from doing other things and applying it to this as best we can. And
it's fun and different, it's always nice to change things up.
Yeah, it is. It's a brand new adventure.
And anyways, so you're listening to our podcast, Seeking the Best, where we are looking for the best ways to do things, the overcoming all of the hurdles in this crazy industry. I'm Catherine Stelgis.
What industry is that?
It's the real estate industry.
It's crazy.
It's insane. I saw somebody.
The agents are insane, or the people involved, or everybody.
Everybody. There's a little bit of, you really see how crazy everyone is by being a realtor.
You throw one wrench into the system, and you see everybody's true colors.
100%.
Right? We always say stuff like, it's always when things go perfectly, you don't get to see how things work, right? It's like, oh, this ran perfect. It's like when you agents that are listening to this have heard people go, oh, you don't need an agent. We did ours ourselves, and we made a bunch of money and blah, 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 blah. And it's like, yeah, because nothing went wrong, right? So it's like you get to see people's true colors when something goes wrong and it needs to be fixed. How many people just jump ship or can't manage or just don't stop returning calls or whatever. It's like you get to see all of that.
I've been thinking this a lot lately because I had a challenging deal that fell through ultimately, and not 100% not in our control. Like nothing we could have done differently. It wasn't your side.
Outcome. It wasn't your side of the deal that for any of it.
Yeah.
For any of the problems.
And it all was just insane that it even could have happened that way, but 100% out of our control. And I kept because it was still challenging dealing with the parties involved and trying to empathize and do the right thing with them, but also you do want them to understand, like, this isn't something we could have changed. This outcome could not have been avoided by any other agent or any other scenario, because we asked all the right questions. We did all the right things, and somebody dropped the ball on the financing side, or the buyer is a liar. I'm not sure which one, but actually it could be both. But anyways, without getting too in the weeds on that, it has made me think a lot lately about how people don't understand that as whether you're a single agent or a team owner, you own your own business. Like, as soon as you get your real estate license, you're a business owner. We're all 1099, and every single day we have to go out and get new business. It never stops. Like, every single day, if you're not looking for new business, then you don't have one. And so I was thinking about how, like, there was times during this last week where I would have loved to have just come home and just turned off my phone, not responded to anyone, and shut down. And I couldn't, because, and maybe some other people would, but I can't do that. And I couldn't do it. And I thought to myself as I was driving home one day, like, this is the thing that people don't understand, is that we don't get to take mental health days. I haven't been, like, knock on wood, I luckily haven't been sick in I don't know how long, but the one day that I was sick that I can remember in the last 10 years, I was sick to the point where I was in bed. I still had a seller expecting me to send them their market analysis and tell them how much their house was worth. And she was like, would not stop. And I made a mistake that day because I was out of it, like all looped up on Tylenol cold or whatever. And I was really sick, and I made a mistake in her home valuation because I was sick. And instead of saying, I'm really sorry, I know this is going to delay things for a day, but I cannot be at my best.
I have a fever of 102.
Like, I can't be at my best for you, and do this. And so, her house, she had a pool, but I didn't know that it was vinyl.
Oh, right. Do
you remember that?
Yes, I remember
and
this.
not like fiberglass, not like solid.
No, they dig a hole and put a vinyl sheet in.
It's basically like it's just a vinyl sheet, like a thin thing that just has dirt behind it.
Yeah. They didn't build
it's all wrinkled and stuff.
Yeah, it's worthless. It's actually costs money. It actually brings the value down.
It did.
Because people don't want them because it's a piece of junk and stuff. So you went from thinking it was like some gunite pool worth that cost $80,000 to install, it was actually took the value away.
Yeah, it did. And so her house didn't sell. And I can count on two. I've been doing this. This is my 18th year. I can count on two hands the houses that did not sell, that expired or got withdrawn.
And that's even through the bad times of.
Oh yeah, like if I list a property, these things sell, and most of those, the hands that I can count on, the ones that I can count, a lot of those were like situational too. Like they just didn't move. They just actually decided not to sell.
The other person ended up not getting the job.
Right. Something like that.
Something like that where it just.
So there's very few that actually expire or don't sell. And anyways, my point of this rant is just that, we don't get to. We should, and people don't understand, so we feel like we can't, but we should take time away and decompress and walk away from a situation if it's making it unhealthy for you. And I
can tell you I don't have to do these kinds of things, these business things like this. My business is just me, and it's a creative business. But a lot of times you start to do something creative, whether I'm doing a painting or an illustration for somebody or designing a logo or anything like that, where I just can't figure it out. I'm trying. It's everything that I'm doing is wrong. It comes out like garbage. I can't come up with the idea. There's only one way to fix that, and it's to completely stop what I'm doing and go do something completely different and just walk away from it.
But can I say something?
Every single time I do that, when I come back, I'm like, oh, I know what to do.
But you know what? And this is what I started down this rant because I can't step away.
I know.
Because somebody else is relying on me to still present their offer or to still respond.
You're on a much tighter time frame. With me, it's like, oh, you can't disrupt the delicate genius, right? It's like, oh, he's an artist. It's like he'll do it when he's done. I get to lay on that card on stuff. You've got a lot of people that are waiting for the answer, whatever it happens to be. There's always
something, and I feel like I'm ranting, but I was feeling that like people don't understand that I don't get to just take that day and say, oh, well, that person's angry. Let me step away from this and I'll come back to it tomorrow or whatever. No, because I got to make another call to somebody else. And then, I didn't finish my lead gen calls from this morning because I was all wrapped up in this buyer to put out. And I've got to finish my lead gen calls or I don't have business tomorrow.
Right.
Like nobody understands this more than our listeners. And if you're new to this, welcome.
Have fun.
Welcome. Because the thing is that it can have great rewards and it is a fun industry, but there are a lot of moments where you just want to stop and quit and give up. And you can't because somebody else is then relying on you that's still a customer or client or an employee or a team member. And so you got to pick your head back up and say, oh, well, I've still got to do payroll or whatever else.
Yeah. Yeah.
So anyways, on that note, I thought that we would talk about leads today because it is one of those things like you can never have enough leads. You always have to be looking for new business because you don't know.
If you don't have leads,
you don't have anything.
You don't have a business.
You don't have a business.
Right.
And you don't ever know, like this deal that fell through 100%. We thought this was closing. Like we were at closing day when this issue came up. And
we're already hanging the drapes or measuring for the drapes, it's done.
And it should never be like that. And yet it is not 100% in our control. And well, a lot of it's not in our control at all, but some things we can control. We can control the follow-up and communication and making sure that things are on track, but we're relying on other people to tell us that they are. And
but what you want to be able to do is hang up the phone after you have to tell that seller that it's not working out today. It's not going to work out. It's going to fall through. And then when you hang up the phone, you have to grab your computer because you have a listing appointment and then you have 2 buyers you've got to show properties to later on this afternoon. Yeah. If you hang up the phone and you're like, well, now what do I do? That's when you really feel it.
Yeah,
right?
That's true.
And the only way to be able to get out of that is to have multiple things going on at once, right? I mean, that's what we tell the new agents all the time that get so bogged down in this one buyer who, probably isn't going to buy anything from from the experience that we have and of watching and seeing people and stuff. And they get all bogged down in this one person. And it's like, look, if you had 3 other buyers you were showing properties to and 2 other in your pipeline and 3 open houses scheduled for this weekend, then you might not worry so much about this one person who canceled their appointment with you, but when that's all you've got, it makes it really, really hard. So we try to get agents to have a pipeline of leads.
Yes. Sorry. There's something in my eye. So I feel like I can't see you, but
that's okay. You know where I am.
I don't need to see you to do a podcast. But anyways, so I actually didn't say who we were. I said, you're listening to Seeking the Best, but I didn't actually introduce us.
Oh yeah.
Okay. So I'm
do that.
I'm Catherine Stelgis. I'm a realtor in Orlando, Florida. And I've been doing this, like I said, this will be my 18th year, which is, I know I'm starting to sound old. That's crazy, right?
Yeah.
Where did all this time go? But anyways, so I was actually talking to, oh yeah, this is Patrick.
Oh yeah. That's me.
Patrick Fatika. He's our sound engineer, producer extraordinaire.
Yep.
And he's also my husband.
Yep.
He's been around through all the thick and thin of all these years.
We've been together for more than 20 years. So
yeah. Oh, gosh, yeah.
Yeah.
No, this year will be 21. Oh wow. Okay, we're dating ourselves. We're but through all of that, I was just talking to somebody today, and I said, in my opinion, and then I said, and I stopped. I was talking to somebody that I know pretty well, and I said, and I've been doing this 18 years, so I think my opinion matters.
Yeah.
In my opinion, and then it's like, yeah, my opinion matters. I've been doing this a long time. In my opinion, though, there's a lot of things that are misunderstood, and we've talked about this before on the podcast, but I think it's always worth refreshing that leads can come from 2 different types of activity, and it's prospecting and marketing. They can come through either way. But once you have the lead, like if you're doing marketing, everybody wants to do marketing because it seems fun, right? Like, oh, and I don't have to pick up the phone. I can just kind of sit back and I can play on Canva and pretend I'm a graphic designer for the day and post stuff on social media or post an ad and
YouTube video.
And I do a YouTube video,
right.
And then leads come to me.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is, it's not that can't work. I mean, companies spend hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars on advertising.
Mm-hmm.
Of course it can work, but it is
because they're spending millions of dollars on advertising. How much money are you spending on advertising?
Well, and it's a long, passive way of doing business. So when you wake up every day and you're like, well, I need a paycheck. Well, then you have to take the other approach.
You have to go get it.
Which is prospecting, which is going out and looking proactively for business. And what you should be doing and spending most of your time doing. Because marketing, by the way, if you got into real estate and you spend most of your time, and listen, I say this coming from a place of I've made these mistakes before. I'm trying to help other people.
Yeah, and also not just that, but you talked about your 18 years of real estate experience. You've also got a bachelor's degree in marketing.
I do. I actually have.
So when we talk about like what does she know about marketing? Well, she went to college for it, so she knows what she's talking about with that too.
And I immediately got my license, and I've been using it in my business ever since. And I know what it is, and I use it well. But let's say you don't know anything really about marketing, then you probably shouldn't spend your entire next 3 to 5 years trying to learn everything you can. You should leverage that because you didn't get in the business of marketing, right? You're not a marketer. You're a real estate agent. Now, some would argue that you are in terms of that you're promoting yourself, blah, blah, blah. But the point is that if you don't have some sort of educational work experience in that field, then you're never going to be as good as hiring some company to do it. That's just the facts.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Maybe you're a savant and you figure it out. But most of the time, you will just need to leverage that out. But in order to leverage it and pay somebody else to do it, you have to have money. So the fastest way to make money is to go out and prospect. And that's actually proactively looking for business. So people are always like, well, I don't want a cold call. Well,
there's lots of cold call. I would say you will only be, if you're doing this the right way, you are only cold calling, which cold calling means people that have never met you or talked to you before, after you've exhausted the other avenues.
So here's where,
right?
Yeah.
Like, that's like the people go, I don't want a cold call, says to me, well, then you haven't done any of the stuff you're supposed to do. If you're a new agent, you're talking about cold calling, you've missed 90% of what you're supposed to be doing right off the bat.
I feel like we're ranty today. Just probably fired up from various things going on, but
yeah.
But so in prospecting, I guess you can look at it as like there's 3 ways to go about that. Prospecting, you can call someone. Well, no, there's like 4. You can call someone, you can text someone, you can social media message someone, and you can go in person and meet them and talk to them. But it's some sort of direct form of communication with them where you're going to go out and you're going to reach out and try to communicate with them where they can have an immediate response back.
Mm-hmm.
And so most of the time, the easiest way to do that is picking up the phone and calling people. And so that's a lot of what you hear about. But think about it like if you can do that from one place, it's the most efficient way to lead generate.
Right.
Because you can just sit down at 8 a.m. or 9 a.m., whatever time you want to start, and you can
bang it all out.
You can reach a lot of people in a short period of time versus if you were going to go out and meet people and you might have to go to multiple locations and it would take a lot more time.
Mm-hmm. And once again, like I was saying, like as a new agent, you don't have the skills and scripts or to be able to explain anything about anything, to be going and meeting people. Like that is a waste. That takes so much time, and that's something that an agent with skills can go and know whether or not this person is serious just by asking the right questions, the LP mama and stuff on first, and all of those things. Like your job as a brand new agent, as a newer agent, is to massage and work your sphere and open house leads.
Well, those are the fastest 2 ways to talk to people. So yes, I'll back up and say, so if you're going to call people, who would be the first people that you should call? People that you already know.
Right.
So I'm going to give you an example of a way to try to generate leads from your sphere that you may think,
and remember, your sphere are people that you know. It's not your database with a bunch of names in it of people you've never met before. That there's a difference between sphere and database. This is your sphere of 200 people, of people that would know your name or your face.
Yeah.
From high school to your husband's job to friends at the PTA, all up and down the line. That's your sphere.
Well, and so I'm going to assume that the people, you guys as the listeners,
right. Let's not get too buried in the.
Well, I'm going to assume you have a sphere that you've built already and you've communicated, but you're struggling to get leads from it or referrals from it. A lot of times what I find is that they just need their memory jogged on like how they could refer business. Because if you just call and you say, hey, how's it going? I'm just checking in with you. How are things? And they say, how are you? And you say, great. I'm selling.
They say, how's real estate?
How's the market? And you do your typical thing. And oh, by the way, if you happen to think of somebody, let me know. And they're like, oh, of course. I always, if anybody ever asks, I think of you. And then, that's your like typical.
Right. And then you wonder, and then nobody calls you.
Well, and that's like your typical thing is. And so there's a script from Bold that is meant to do this, but then I'm going to just tell you another way that I kind of remembered this week and it works. But the script from Bold is, and if you don't know what Bold is, it's a class from MAPS Coaching. And it's basically like, who do you know from work, church, your neighborhood, a group they're a part of? Like you give them 3 different things that's interested in buying a home, selling a home, or investing in real estate that I could call today. And the purpose of that, doing it that way, is to jog their memory of like, do I know somebody from work or school?
Right. It's also not an open-ended question. Do you know anybody? No.
Nope. It's who do you know from these things that I could call today? But here's what, and I know you're going to take it and you're going to say, who do you know that I could call today? Okay, well, you missed the middle part. Who do you know from work or church that might be interested in buying a home? Okay. See how you're missing, like, it's all strung together for a specific thing.
Right.
Is to say it's an open-ended question of who. I'm looking for a who from these places to jog your memory of like who you would know out in the world, not just leaving it open-ended for them to try to think on the spot. Mm-hmm. And then that I could call today. And so anyways, I was, making some sphere calls, and one of the things I remembered is that the way you can jog their memory is the neighborhood part. So if you're calling your sphere and there's a listing, it doesn't even have to be yours, but I was doing this to somebody, and it so happened that we have a new listing near her house. And so I made the call and I was chatting and seeing how things are going. They did some renovations. So again, it's about the rapport and relationship building part 2. But then I said, oh, you know what? I just listed a property down the street from you. Who do you know from work or the neighborhood who's interested in buying a home? And she, like, by the way, we talked for like 10 minutes before I asked this, and no referrals. Right? Like, she didn't have anybody that she knew. And then at the end, when I reminded her about this listing, she said, you know what? Actually, my parents. And I was like, what? But anyways, the point is, if you give them specific examples of how they can help, like what is a specific listing, a specific thing. And it's like, look, they may not know anybody for that specific thing, but you're just giving them things that will actually make them stop and think. It causes them to not just glaze over that question over and over again.
Right.
And
they do this same thing, by the way. Next time you guys go to a restaurant, a good restaurant, a nice restaurant, and they come around at the end and they say, if you go to a mediocre restaurant and have a mediocre server, they'll say, you have room for dessert tonight? And you go, no, we're good. Just bring the check. Right. But a good restaurant, they will offer up 3 or 4 desserts. Which one do you want? And then most of the time people go, ooh, that does sound good. Maybe we will have that. Right. But if you just, these are simple selling tools that people have been using for 100 years. And there's a reason why they're used, because they work.
Yeah.
They work.
So, and I'm going to say, so same string of calls, call somebody else, having a conversation, did the same thing. And he had said at some point during the conversation, he had said, yeah, I always tell people about you. And I don't know if it's anything's panned out, but I'm always, I love you guys and whatever. Pulled the same script out at the end. Oh, by the way, we just listed a house down the street from you. Who do you know that from work or the neighborhood that's looking to buy a home in that area that I could call today? And all of a sudden there was like, oh yeah, you know what? I actually am interviewing somebody that might get a job here and they would want to live in this area. All of a sudden, those 2 conversations would have easily ended with just like, yeah, I'll definitely let you know if I hear anybody, to I've got 2 people that now I know have potential referrals.
Right. It's why what you're talking about too, I just keep thinking of newer buyer agents and how difficult it is, or just agents, not really buyer agents, just newer agents, and how difficult when they call their sphere and they're making their calls and they're just not getting anything out of it. Like they're just can't get anything. And it's like, but we know what the numbers are. How many calls you need to make to people that you know in order to get a lead. Right. And so when they're making 30, 40, 50 calls and not getting a lead from it, you have to wonder if it's because of the script, where the script says, well, the script doesn't sound like me, so I'm just going to change this. And by the time you're making the 4th and 5th and 6th call of the day, you've stripped it all down and you've gotten all of the stuff out of it. And now all of a sudden, none of it's working. And we say all the time, like, well, you can't just say, I'm going to go bake this cake and then, well, instead of adding this kind of sugar. I'm going to add this kind of sugar. And I don't have any baking powder, so I'm just going to leave that out. And all of a sudden, you've changed the whole recipe. You put it in the oven. You go, God, this tastes like garbage. Well, there's a reason, because you changed the whole recipe. And the same is true with these scripts. When you have to master them, just like baking, you have to master it before you get to go in and play.
Yeah.
Right? And so a lot of times when we see agents who are like, I call my sphere all the time, I don't get anything from it. We know what the reason is. If you're calling them the right number of times, every 20 people you talk to, you should be getting a lead. Right?
Yeah. Well, and so here's what happens. Like, I could take both those calls. Like, I didn't immediately get contact info for the person. One of them isn't even like looking for a house right this second. But now I know that person has a potential referral for me and when they're going to potentially have that referral.
And the objective of this is to make these calls every single day so that there's 40, 50 people that are in the same, that you've got, that are all kind of floating around. And that's called your pipeline. Well,
so this is what I believe a lot of people lose that. Like, that falls through the cracks.
Yeah.
Like, so-and-so said they might have a referral, but they're not looking yet, but they might move here, and it will just fall through the cracks. And so there's got to be this systematic process for this. Like, because today I didn't set an appointment with that person, but I will in the future, but only if I ask for that business again and I remind them. And then I ask for the contact information. Mm-hmm. And the only way that I'm going to do that is because I'm making calls every single day. I've got showings.
You can't possibly remember.
No, I'm not going to remember. I have to make a note in the CRM. So whatever contact system you're using, I make a note from the call of what the conversation was about. And then I set a task to follow up on that specific referral. So, and then by the way, this is what your sphere wants from you. Like, it's not all about you and I want to get the lead or the referral from the person. It's like your sphere wants to be able to say, I have an awesome realtor that you should talk to. And then you deliver on all of those things. And so by you following up and taking care of that person, that friend, family member, employee, staff, whoever they're moving in from out of state, by you helping and taking care of them, they look good too. And so everybody wins, but you've got to set tasks for yourself and make notes. Like, you have to have copious notes and always set tasks. There should not be a single person in the CRM that doesn't have a future task or some smart plan set up for them. Mm-hmm. And like, that is one of the things that if I could go back and learn that earlier in my career, like the importance of that. It's not that I guess I knew the importance, but like, getting really clear on the systematic follow-up.
Well, you have no excuse now. My point being is that, look, you want to sound old? Here we go.
Oh no, what are you going to say?
When Kat started real estate, she had a flip phone.
No, I did not.
Yes.
Did I? Oh, yes. Yeah, I had that blue.
A flip phone. So there was the internet, but not like it is now. And so certainly didn't have a CRM on your phone. And whatever the CRM was, user-friendly, it was not.
Hold on. When did the iPhone come out? I've got to look this up.
I'm telling you.
iPhone launch date.
Right.
2007. Okay. Within a year or so.
But I'm talking about the CRM. There was no app for command.
No.
So my point being is that hard to think like how to do this back then, because you were 5 seconds away from having a Rolodex, right? So, but now, if you're getting into the business now and you have this technology to be able to harness, you really have no excuse because it's all right there. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Back in my day,
we
had to go uphill in the snow.
Blue Nokia flip phone. I forgot about that. That was brief, and then the iPhone came out.
Yeah,
and we got the iPhone, and then I did that's one of the things that I think if you're going to invest in your business, if you're just getting started or you're looking to upgrade systems and tools, is like find a good CRM. So if you're not with Keller Williams, and you need to buy a separate system.
Don't go on the cheap. Get
Like-
something super user friendly that does everything and,
Well,
and has a place to grow.
And just know there's some systems like Boomtown and things like that. They're going to do like advertising stuff. It's crazy expensive.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that. I started with Top Producer,
Mhm.
and it was a good service at the time. I haven't used it in years, so I have no idea how it compares to anything else. But you have to have a place to keep this information and set reminder tasks, and then that's your dashboard. So every morning when you wake up and you're like, what am I supposed to be doing today? You go to your dashboard, and then there are tasks that you've set for yourself, and over time it just keeps adding up, and you've got, I'm doing other things, and I'm putting people on smart plans or campaigns,
Mhm.
and
then all of a sudden that's telling you what to do. every
and then
day.
all of a sudden there's too many tasks, and then you have to
Right.
hire somebody to do some of those tasks
right,
for you.
Right.
But you have to have some way to keep up with that. So if there's one thing that I would recommend spending money on is some sort of CRM, but you can get just get a basic plan where you're just focused on, I need a place to put my people, and have a systematic touch program that I can add them to, and a place to add tasks, and a dashboard to go in and know, like, here's what I need to do today. And then, so after you've called your sphere and you've done all of your tasks, that's where people say, well, now what?
Right.
So maybe we get into that after the break.
All right, let's take a break.
The Think Live Be team is an Orlando-based real estate team with Keller Williams Realty at the Parks. We operate as a boutique-style company with the resources of the largest real estate company behind us. Think Live Be is looking for talented people like you to join our team. If you happen to live in the Orlando area and you're a detail-oriented quick learner, then we might have a place for you. Whether you're a real estate agent or administrative professional, we are looking for individuals who are ready to work hard and ready for success. If you're ready to join the team, visit us at thinklivebe.com.
And we're back.
Okay. So we were talking about leads, and so you were saying, so I think to me, this is my opinion, and I've been doing this a long time, so I think my opinion matters, that your sphere, and then as people turn into past clients, so sphere, past client lists, and open houses are the two best lead sources ever to exist. And because you can get referrals and repeat business from your sphere and past clients, and open houses are literally people that are coming. It's like as if you have a retail store, and it's an opportunity that you don't get anywhere else unless you have floor duty at your office. Other than that, which most people don't anymore, and you may not even know what that is. I may have just dated myself by saying floor duty. Let me explain what that is.
I'm sure there's some small brokerages out there in foot trafficked areas that do floor duty. I'm sure there are. I bet I'm sure the Keller Williams office in Winter Park does floor duty.
I actually don't know if they do anymore because they're not in that small little space anymore. But anyways, floor duty is where you sit in the office in an area where there is high foot traffic, and
on a Saturday morning,
and people walk in, and then they're like, because you got the pictures of the houses on the window, and they walk in and stuff.
I need a realtor, and
it's popular in I think vacation towns and
sure.
stuff like that, because people are on vacation, and then they're like, maybe we should buy a house here,
like we did.
We're those people,
yeah.
But anyways, so if you don't have floor duty, you don't have any way to get in front of people that actually have real estate needs without going and door knocking or just dropping by people's houses randomly,
which is crazy difficult to do. With you'll have a new agent here and there that's like, I'm really good in person, I'm gonna do that, and you know how many people that's like throwing darts at a moving telephone book and waiting to.
I don't know about that, but
well, I mean, come on. You're just going to knock on a door and say, do you know anyone who wants to buy a house? You don't know me. I don't know you, but here I am.
Well, that's not the script for that. But
I know it's not. But I mean, we talk about what's the most important thing is time management.
No, I was getting there. I'm just saying, in my opinion, sphere and past clients and open houses are the best lead sources that are available to us as realtors or real estate agents. And as I was saying before, I was getting angry about it, is that other than door knocking or popping by for sale by owners and expireds when you are unannounced and unexpected, there's no other way to get in front of people.
And inexperienced.
Who says that everybody that listens is an experience?
Well, I'm just
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
Anyways, but in door knocking, like Pat was saying, is that you're knocking on someone's door, you have no idea if they have any real estate needs whatsoever. So you're really just looking to do that for consistency over time, where you build a brand in that community. It's part of a farming strategy. It's not. It's not like, hey, I'm going to go door knock today and I'm going to find somebody who wants to do real estate business.
Just going to pick this neighborhood, I guess. It's a calculated thing that goes along with a series of postcards that you're mailing and doing a whole marketing campaign in a particular neighborhood that isn't owned by another realtor. And there's a lot to that rather than just knocking on doors. But it's
not the same as standing in a retail store and having people just come in and want to buy the product. Right. And
especially a product like this, right? So it's like even a retail store is like, well, if I don't want to buy a shirt there, I'll just buy a shirt over there. It's like this is like a very specialized item that you're like some sort of like amplifiers for car stereo store. Like if somebody's walking into the amplifier car stereo store, chances are they need an amplifier for a car stereo. They're not just stopping by. So same is true with like open houses. It's like if somebody's going through the trouble, now granted, there's always people that are just rubbernecking, I'm the neighbor and stuff, but you can still talk to them. There still might be an option with that, but it's like they're walking in saying, I need to buy a house. And these people, it's like the best.
By the way, so the reason I'm bringing up open houses is because I do think it's the number 2 best source of business and, easiest way to meet people who have real estate needs. But I actually just did one this past weekend for the first time in a long time.
Yeah, it's been, a long time.
A long time. And I was afraid I was going to be really rusty.
It's like riding a bike, right? You got in there and just everything just clicked.
Everything was fine, except that, there's always this chaos. It was a busy open house. And so I was like this chaos of people walking in and I'm like, wait, no, you can't pass me until you register. But anyways, they're coming there with some reason. Mm-hmm. And I know, like, I've heard all the excuses like, oh, they're not really interested. They're just curious. They are curious about real estate.
Yeah.
Let me give you an example, because I had somebody come into my open house and they were just eating at a restaurant nearby and saw the signs and they stopped in. Mm-hmm. And so I was chatting with her. Mm-hmm. Well, what in God's name had you, I didn't say it like that, but what in God's name had you stop into a house because you just happened to be eating nearby?
Yeah. Right? So you saw an open house sign? Like,
and
why
you got nothing else to do with your life and time?
Mm-hmm.
So she was
like... So you dug a little bit,
yeah, right? And she was like, I would totally buy this house if accept this feedback. And I was like, well, what would have you interested in buying a home? Well, they're investors and they buy homes and rent them. Okay. And I was like, what about this house? And she loves old houses. Well, so do I. So we hit it off. And she's like, and I was like, how long have you been looking? Well, they're not really looking today. Right. But they're always looking for real estate.
It's like us.
Yeah.
Always not looking today. I don't need to buy something this week, but I'm always looking.
So there are those people that you will meet where you will discount them as leads because you'll say, oh, they were just down the street and just stopping by. They were stopping by because they look at real estate regularly with the intention of they buy stuff if something makes sense, mm-hmm. right? I still want to meet those people because the more people I meet and feed into the database, that's one thing that I will say, like, I am good at feeding a database mm-hmm. and through all different ways. So, 42 people came through that open house. It was like 20 something groups, all of them registered.
Every single one.
Every single one registered.
And Catherine gets in the register because she doesn't put a piece of paper on the counter and say, please sign in. She doesn't let them get through the front door until she gets their information and she puts it in the computer because we've learned that people have less of an opportunity, least likely to lie directly to your face and give you a fake name and fake email address and fake phone number.
And it's not to say that that's always the case. Like the people
least likely
scenario. And I want to reiterate that because I know we've done episodes about open houses, but remember, people are coming in because they're curious about real estate. That's who you want to be talking to.
True.
I was listening to a podcast episode the other day, and it was like his simple model was just like talk to enough people And that's it. That's all you have to do in this business is talk to enough people about real estate. And if you're not talking to enough people, then you go find more people to talk to. That will solve all of your problems. You just have to have enough conversations. Well, and this is a perfect, beautiful opportunity that you have to do open houses and add people to the database and have conversations with people who actually have interest in the subject that you're there to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
There is no other opportunity like that.
No.
And it's the thing is that I think you do it and it becomes this like, well, first of all, you've got to follow up with these people. That's another conversation.
This is like, it's so funny because it's like you did this open house and how many people walked through, how many groups, 20 something?
Like 22 or
22 groups. You basically said, okay, I'm going to do this open house. You do she's got a system for advertising the open house. And then obviously a system for how the open house is going to start, finish and all of those things. A minimal amount of work goes into it, but a minimal amount of work goes into it. And then you'll see new agents say, well, I want to do a first time buyer seminar and get people and the amount of work and energy that goes into something like that to get 4 people to show up who aren't even interested, when you could have just taken a eighth of that amount of time and done 1 open house and taken all of that amount of time and done 8 open houses and had 100 people come through that you would have their information. It is just throwing mud at a wall to see and just trying a bunch of different things rather than just focusing on getting really good at getting people's information and asking the right questions at an open house and building the rapport and then moving on. It's once again, it's all about time management.
So yeah, I mean, it's not a difficult thing. You can do it for other people. It's the only opportunity to get in front of people like that we have, and I think people do them, but they don't necessarily understand the intention. Like the intention is not to sell that house. The intention is not to set an appointment. Cool if you do.
Yeah.
The intention is not to set an appointment. The intention is to get every single piece of contact information
from every person,
so that you can continue to build upon. Now you've met them, they actually would recognize your face, right? You're going to have a higher conversion, just like why Sphere and past clients are so important, because you've already met them. They already know who you are.
How many times have you heard from an agent that has gone in, done an open house, and I had a really good conversation with these people. I was really, really good conversation. And I think we're going to set an appointment and blah, blah, blah. And then they call them on Monday and they never hear from them again. Right. And what happened during that really good conversation? 4 other people walked through the open house and you didn't get their information because you were having such a great conversation.
Well, that happens. Yeah, that can happen for sure. One of the things and then I'll get off open houses because I did want to cover a couple other things. But you've got to kind of set up the open house so that you get people through one spot. So like the house that I was,
you got to funnel them in like you're herding sheep.
Yeah. So the house I was holding open, it's on a corner lot. So there's a side door and a front door, and most people would go through the front door naturally, right? But the parking spaces were on the side. Right. And so I left that door locked intentionally. And at some point, somebody unlocked it and probably walked out that way. And I noticed someone come in that I was like, I did not register those people. I got to go track them down. And then I went and locked the door again. So you have to like set up your surroundings.
Don't set
for
up
success.
you can't go in the kitchen's in the back of the house. You don't set up in the kitchen in the back of the house and let people wander all the way through. You set up on the front porch. Where you don't let people walk in, or right on the inside, right in the living room, so that when people walk in, you can register them and get their information right there.
Well, also, so I go back to like leads. When it comes to leads, you need to have standards for yourself or your team, if you have a team, around what's the expectation of how quickly are you going to follow up, how often, like what does that look like? Because so here's the thing. When you follow up after an open house, our script, the script that I like, asks for feedback on the house because I want to get feedback for the seller. And So I'm doing two things. I can do two things and multitask like that, right? Like I'm looking to see if there's an opportunity for new business, right? I just met these people. They obviously have an interest in real estate. I want to talk to them about that, but I also want to gather feedback. And then by doing that, I think, this is my opinion, is that the consumer sees what you're doing for that client or customer. And like, isn't that what they would want as a seller, right? They would want their agent to follow up, right? So if you've got somebody on the other line that is also a seller, well, that's going to look really sharp to them.
It also is you're honestly asking, it's an honest approach. You're not being slimy and sleazy at trying to get their business working some angle. You're honestly asking, I would like feedback from you regardless of what your plans are, so that I can do my job better. Right. And so and help my client sell their house, even if it's not going to be you. And that's coming from that place lets people begin to trust you. And then that opens it up to where you can start to get into, well, what are you looking for then?
Yeah.
Right. Well, we liked it. We thought it was great, but the bedroom was pretty small. Oh, now I know they want a bigger bedroom. We can start to have a conversation, right?
Yeah. Well, and so the other thing so after if you have this CRM and you've data entered your leads in your sphere or past clients, and you go into your dashboard every day and you've got tasks, and you wake up and you start calling your sphere and your past clients first, and then you call your open house leads, or you call your open house leads first because they're the hotter leads, right? And you get through those, and then you're like, well, now what? Because I don't have an appointment. That's when you start to look into some, let's call them colder sources. So if you're running any kind of ads or marketing, right, then you're going to call all of those leads that you have from there too. And you would have them on some sort of systematic plan. But at some point on days, you will run out of people to call that are just in the dashboard.
Do you go to the movies?
No. Right? Like, but that's what happens is you're like, oh, well, I'm done for the day. I called my 2 open house people. I called the couple sphere people. Oh, well, nothing happened.
I'm done.
And if you just stop and you wrap up and you go home, well, then, yeah, you're just setting yourself up to not have enough in the pipeline, because you can never have enough leads. So you do have to go to some of these colder sources of, like, who else can you call? And there's a million different, well, not a million. We had an episode once that was like top 50 or something. But you can start to go to those. So where would you go next that would be the most likely to do real estate business? I know nobody wants to hear it, but for sale by owner and expireds. And then from there, because now you've hit the people who already know you and that are most likely to refer you. You've hit the people that have real estate needs that you met in person. You've hit any kind of leads that have inquired to you about something. And you're now moving on to people that would actually have a real estate need. And they've already said that they do recently. Then from there, if you still haven't set an appointment, that's when you start pulling like well, in our team, it would be like old buyer leads and stuff. But if you're building your database, you don't have old leads to call through yet. Then you go to, should I do circle prospecting? Should I do, I can call for rent by owners and see if they're interested in buying more investment property or selling their rental property. Then you start to look through who's likely to sell. There's lots of different services that you can go into and get a list of people in a neighborhood that are likely to sell, that you could then get their phone numbers for a couple cents a piece and do that kind of geographical farming. But remember, none of those people know who you are. So that's the last batch.
You're going to get, as you start to go with these other things, you get diminishing returns. So what does that mean? That means instead of talking to 20 people like you would with your sphere, you've got to talk to maybe 50 people or maybe 100 people before you get a lead, right? And then there's other ways like Facebook leads and stuff like that, where instead of it's 100, you've got to contact 20,000 people to get one lead.
Well, that's not the right math.
I know
yeah,
it's
I know
not,
what you're saying.
How about to get a sale?
Well,
right.
Then,
so I guess my point is that if you're newer and you've done your 4 calls and you're done for the day, or you don't have any other calls to make, you can pick one of these things and go, this is going to be my side project, right? I'm going to do FISBOs. That's going to be my thing. And then,
well, I do think that's a good idea. So to pick the two best, right? Sphere.
mm-hmm.
You've built your sphere to 200, which means every day. Let me do some quick math for you. I'm sure it sounds. If you build it to 200 and you're calling them quarterly, how many working days are in a quarter? 5 times? Wait, no, 5 times 4 times 3. 60.
Mm-hmm.
There's 60 working days. Is that math right?
I think so, yeah.
It's late in the day, so my math could be wrong. But so if you were going to call 200 people over 60 days, you really only have 4 calls to make a day.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That's not a lot of people.
That's not enough.
Well, it's not enough.
It's not enough. You need to do, if you're just starting out, we what do we say? You have to make 50 contacts a week, right? So that's 10 a day is what you've got. And that's if you want to be average. If you want to go out in there and kill it, and you're one of these people who says, I want to make $100,000 my first year, then you've got to do more than 10 contacts a day. You got to do 15 or 20 contacts a day. That's talking to. That's not calls that no one answered. That's talking to.
So when you do open house, you can work these numbers backwards though. So like I just did, if your sphere is bigger than that, then you might be calling more people per day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So if you need to make 10 contacts, which like Pat said, that's like average. Like you want to shoot for maybe more than that, but let's say you want to do 10 contacts a day, 50 a week, and maybe 30% of the people pick up the phone
mm-hmm.
when you call. How many dials is that?
I don't know.
33.
Okay. 33 dials.
So maybe you plan to dial 40 people a day, 40 or 50. Because as you do this more, you'll find that it takes you less people to make the same amount of contacts.
Right.
And some lead sources will pick up the phone more
mm-hmm.
than others. So it's you have to track your numbers is one of the things with leads. In order to do better and improve, you have to know how many people does it take me on average to reach 10 people. And if I want to reach 20, then I need to double my dials. Well, who am I going to be dialing? And so if I have 200 people in my sphere, I'm only going to be dialing like 4 people a day from my sphere. So who are the other
people?
36 to
dials.
plus
right.
dials. And so then you start doing open houses. Well, commit to doing 2 open houses a month until you can't do it anymore, right?
Right. Until you start to, and then you can you build up that list of people that you can keep calling, and you don't call them and then the first week and then throw them out and then start calling the people the second week. You continue to call and call and call and call until they tell you to stop calling.
Yeah, truly, like that's the thing. So again, I haven't done an open house in a long time because I have a team, but first thing I did this morning was pick up the phone and start calling people. And one of the things that you have to remind yourself is I'm not attached to the outcome from any of these calls.
Right.
Like it does not matter what this person says or what their plans are. Like number one, I'm just looking to see if I can help someone and in any way.
And I'm looking for feedback.
And feedback. Yeah, 100%. I'm looking for feedback. And if there's an opportunity to help someone in any way, even if it's not selling them a house, like I'll do that, right? I'm not attached to the outcome. If they don't answer the phone, I don't care. I'll call them again tomorrow. It doesn't matter. The point is you keep putting people into the database until every single day you have a minimum of 40 to 50 dials that you can make.
Right.
And if you don't, like let's say you only have like 30 people, then you have another source. So if it's for sale by owners, then you're constantly pulling a list of numbers that you can work off of
and get good at it.
And just keep working that as your third thing.
Right.
And if you have 3 to 4 sources to pull from, you should always be able to get enough to have enough conversations that will over time turn into enough appointments to hit your goals.
Unfortunately, if you listen carefully, what we're talking about is repetition. Over doing the same thing over and over and over again. And if you're the kind of person who does something twice and goes, oh, that doesn't seem to be working, let me try this. And then you try that and you're like, that doesn't seem to be working, let me try this. Let me throw some mud at the wall with this. those are the agents that do 8 sales a year, and they bounce around and they make CD mixtapes for their clients, and they don't do any business. What Catherine's talking about is building a machine that is always flowing for you to pull from, right? And that's how you go from making $30,000 a year to $100,000 a year in 1 year. That's how it works. It is repetition over and over again, memorization of scripts, getting better at them, you don't make this script sound like you make you sound like the script.
Hey,
and,
can I say something?
Yeah. Sorry. I'm all fired up.
I was I don't think I said this on the podcast, but even if I did, I'll say it again. Recently I had two referrals recently, and I identified that both of those referrals actually came from past real estate agents. So
I'm sorry.
I know.
I know. Yeah.
And listen, people retire, people quit, people realize this business is not for them. They get out of it. All kinds of stuff happens. It's just a database, right? Like I still, and I'm not saying I keep in touch with those particular people regularly, but what I did was I knew them, and I did at least continue with social media with them and stuff. I'm not calling them every quarter,
right?
So I don't want to, misunderstand. But now I'm thinking about making this an actual source, right?
Yeah, because you don't know, like people don't call up all their clients and go, "Hey, I just want to let you know I'm retired." They just retire.
Right.
Or, hey, I just want to let you know I'm not doing real estate anymore. Beat the crap out of me. I'm going to do this instead.
Of course.
So their sphere might not know. So they call them up and say, hey, we're thinking about buying a house.
So this is something to think about. If you're listening and you've been in the business for a while, you probably have sphere, right? They're your sphere that you don't even realize is not in the business anymore. Or maybe you do realize that and you're still like connected on social media, but you don't realize that they're actually still your sphere, right? You knew them. You just thought at the time that they were competition. You weren't going to be calling them quarterly and asking for business because they weren't going to give you any. But now they can.
Yeah.
So I thought it was an interesting thing.
And you would assume that those agents, they already have friends that are agents, and I'm sure you don't know that.
And by the way, I am pretty confident that both of these people referred more than one agent to the parties. That's okay because I won the listings.
Right. Yeah. And if you're good at it, then that's okay.
But it brings to light that there is an opportunity there.
Yeah, for you specifically.
For me, I know a lot of people over the years that I've met through this business. Thousands probably have come through this business. I'm not saying I know them all, but thousands of people have come in and out of this business, whether they've retired or quit or whatever. And that's those people that I've met along the way. They know me in a professional environment that is unique. Like our relationship is unique to even my sphere.
And chances are those people have worked with you. That's how you know them.
They've either worked, and maybe not directly, but they know my quality of work enough to recommend me.
Right.
They know what the difference is between working with me and somebody else, even if we didn't directly work together. Because you just know when when an agent is good and when they're not.
That is a good idea. We should put together a 12 by 12.
Yeah. For sure. Those people should be they should be communicated with.
Erica.
You're dropping names?
Yeah, I'm dropping names. Get on that.
Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, the question you are about to hear is true. Only the names have been changed to protect the innocent.
Question from the web. I'm a newer agent and have my first listing appointment coming up next week. I dropped off a pre-listing packet and have done my research in the neighborhood and feel overall good about the actual presentation. But I'm a bit introverted and don't do well at breaking the ice. When dealing with sellers you don't already know, what is your way of starting presentations and how do you flow through the process? So I think what they're talking about kind of is like small talk, like, hi, I'm so, like those first few minutes before you get into the thing.
So I would say, like, okay, I would categorize myself as an introvert, and I'm not really a people person, never really have been. And I'm trying to think how to explain the best way to go about this. Part of being in this business is being able to talk to lots of different personality types and help guide them through the process. So you have to become a student of personalities and rapport building. And so what I think the first thing you need to do is go learn about the Ford method, which is it's an acronym. It stands for family, occupation, recreation, and dreams. And come up with a list of open-ended questions to learn about people when you're in those situations where it's not small talk, by the way. I think I get what you're saying.
Right. I think what you just said is perfect. Like, come up with a list of questions. And what does that mean? That means you're letting them do the talking.
Let me give you an example. Like, I'll ask people, and sometimes I've asked this on the initial call, because I'm also pre-qualifying the appointment and stuff. Mm-hmm. But sometimes when I get to the house, I might ask, like, how long have they lived in that area? And they'll tell me. And if it's like a while, I just say, wow, you must have seen a lot of growth and change. Mm-hmm. Because that's just true.
And some people will be really excited and happy about that. And other people will be really angry and upset about that. And you already have a pretty good idea who you're talking to.
But I'm not making any statements about the change. I'm
right.
just saying, like, oh, wow, you must have seen a lot of change. Mm-hmm. And then they'll say, oh, yeah, back in my day, or whatever. That gets them talking about themselves and their experience there. And so that's all you're really looking to do is get them talking so that you don't have to do so much of the talking.
Yeah. And that's what I was going to say is if I'm reading this question and I'm saying and I'm about breaking the ice and a bit introverted and don't know what to say and all of that, what that sounds like to me is you could walk down that path of nervous talking and not really saying anything and blowing it before you even start.
Well,
because the nerves, it's your first listing appointment. It's like you're going to be nervous. It's going to be all of those things. And you're going to want to talk about you and just keep talking because the dead air is going to make you even more nervous. So ask questions.
I would say that I think as soon as you hit the front door, your listing presentation has started. You're right. Sending a pre-listing package, by the way, you're already above and beyond what most agents do by doing that. So
yep.
Good job there. And so when you go in, though, the minute you introduce yourself, you're starting your presentation. It's not all about what's the market and the price of the home and stuff. So when you enter, you just need to be like, I really think that this is the answer to most things. It's just be a normal human being.
Yeah.
Don't be overly professional, like, hello, Mr. and Mrs. Thank you for having me over to list your property today. Let's get started. Mm-hmm. Like, just think about if you went to some stranger's house, like, I don't know, I'm making up a scenario here, but like you were hanging out with friends and they said, hey, I got to run by a friend's house and pop in real quick. Will you come with me? And you end up in some stranger's house. What would you say to them? What would you ask them? What would you tell them? Right? You'd probably say, hi, I'm so-and-so. What's your name? And obviously you know this person's name, but you're going to introduce yourself. And then you might say something like, oh, you have a lovely home, or, whatever, however you got there.
Yeah. And I think you're right on track with your listing appointment starts the minute you walk in. And I know that Catherine does. Sometimes you get one of these old guys who wants to show you everything that they've done to the house, and your 1 hour listing appointment somehow turns into a 3 hour listing appointment. And you're like, how did that happen? Well, because you didn't take control right from the first step was as soon as you walked in. So when you walk in, you tell them how this works and what it is that you're going to do, and you take control of the situation, and you say, the first thing I like to do is walk through the house as if I'm a buyer. So if you guys want to just chill in here for a few minutes, and I'm going to just do a quick walk around and just kind of look at it through the eyes of a buyer.
Hey, can I say something? Yeah. I've never said,
chill.
You guys just chill in here while I go walk around your house.
This is how I've never been to one of your listing appointments. I'm just going off of what I would say.
But
am I right?
But yes, when you first walk in, you're going to thank them for having you over. Mm-hmm. And then you're looking for a table to put your stuff down on.
Right. We don't want to sit on the floor like Catherine's had to do in the past. Yeah.
you're looking for a table. And so when you walk in, generally they'll kind of start to guide you towards one, but not always. So you would just say like, great, thanks for having me over to discuss listing your home or to list your home today. And then you say, is there a table where we can chat? And then they might want to already start walking you around, like Pat said. And that's okay. If you ask them, like, great, where's the table where we can sit down and chat? And then they take you there and you put your purse down or your stuff that you're carrying and you give them something to fill out, like a contact info sheet or a questionnaire about the house. And you say, okay, great. I'm going to give you this questionnaire. If you don't mind taking a moment and fill this out, this will help me prepare to sell your home. And then if it's okay, I'll just take a look around the house. I like to see it through the eyes of the buyer. And then later, after we've decided to, work together, we can go through all the things that make it special or all the improvements you've made, however you want to say it.
Because you don't want to get trapped in a 3-hour listing presentation, get home at 8:00, your dinner's cold, and then they go, yeah, we went with the other guy.
But I will say, I'm not like a really hard line in the sand where if they want to walk with me, I'm fine with that.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't
that's
push
okay
back on
because
that.
you've set it up as I'm going to look at this through that. You're leading. You're not letting them lead you're leading the walk around because you're doing it through the eyes of a buyer, right? But if you let them do it, they're going to want to show you every little thing and when they did it and what this was and they're talking about tile and everything and you might not even end up with this listing.
Sometimes though, I will say, because I did this recently, so it's fresh in my mind, is I could tell that they wanted to show me around. And so I grabbed my phone and I said, okay, great. Yeah. If you want to show me all the things that you guys have done to improve, let me grab my phone and I'll take notes. And then I'll be prepared to list your home for sale.
Right.
Sound good? So I'm like preparing them that, okay, we're going to do this. I'm going to go ahead and take notes as if I'm listing this property then.
Yeah. Did that work?
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. You're taking photos this week.
Is that the one I'm taking photos of?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So you do just, again, if you study personalities and you read the room, right, and kind of take cues from them, but do try to control the situation so you're not there all night. But take cues, right? If they're like, well, actually, can I, I'd really want to show you this thing we did in the bathroom. Oh, okay, great. Well, let me grab my notepad so that I can make good notes for the listing description so that when we get it up for sale, like start making the assumptive close. And then if they are like, oh, well, we're meeting with other people, I don't know. Then,
right.
You can say, oh, okay, well, yeah, let's take a quick look around and then let's talk about,
right.
why you'd choose me. And then we can always make some more notes about all the details you've made.
There you go.
I don't know. In my opinion.
What?
I said in my opinion.
Oh. Small win, Catherine. You have a small win this month.
Oh gosh, what day is it?
It's Monday.
Oh my god. So I will say, this is more of a big win, but we've been looking for a while for another administrative person to add to the team, pick up a lot of the things that I've been doing. I've been doing a lot of job responsibilities, and we finally found somebody and started them, and so that's nice to feel like
we're almost to a point where they can start leveraging.
Yes, stuff. I'm looking forward to having leverage again in my life.
Yeah, that is a big win. And my small win is I painted a little alcove in our kitchen.
You did.
I did.
It's super cute.
Yeah, so our kitchen has been white. Kitchen/living room has been white since we first moved into this house, and then we intentionally, yeah,
like that's what we painted it.
Yeah, because it was butter yellow. The old people, in their butter yellow color. So we painted it white, and then over Christmas, right before Christmas, we put a backsplash that runs to the ceiling in the kitchen area, and that tile is white marble. So the white marble with the white in the living room and stuff, there wasn't a lot of contrast, so I knocked back the little coffee nook with a really beautiful deep blue color on the walls, and it just makes the tile pop on the wall and just looks really, really nice. And it was it's always nice when you are looking at a swatch and go, I think this color will work, and then you have to remind yourself it's just paint. If it doesn't look right, you just paint over it. But it's always nice when you nail it, right off the top. It doesn't happen all the time, but it's always very always makes you feel good when you get
It's
it.
satisfying.
Yeah, for sure. Hey guys, remember to rate and review us on iTunes. It really helps new listeners to find us. Send your questions from the web to onseekingthebest@gmail.com. Leave us a Spotify voicemail with your questions and we'll play it on the show. All info is in the show notes. And for Kat and myself, thanks for listening, and we'll figure this all out next week.
Bye.
This has been a Think Live Be production.